CEO hated all elegant, refined women, except the little maid at home, not knowing she was actually. Thank you so much for clicking on this story. Before we dive into this incredible journey of hidden identities and unexpected love, I want to ask you to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Whether you're in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Africa, or anywhere else in this beautiful world. Your support means everything, and I love connecting with viewers from all corners of the globe. Now, let's get into this story that I promise will have you on the edge of your seat. Rhodes Sutherland, 37, stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Charleston penthouse on March 10, 2024, watching the sun set over the Battery Promenade, and felt absolutely nothing. 5 years ago, in 2019 when he was 32, he'd felt everything. Too much. The betrayal had been so complete, so devastatingly thorough, that it had rewired something fundamental in him. Victoria Ashford, elegant, refined, from one of Charleston's oldest families, had stood in this very room wearing a designer gown that cost more than most people's cars and told him she was leaving. Not for another man. For his money. Money she'd been systematically stealing for 8 months while planning their wedding. "You were so easy to fool," she'd said, her cultured voice dripping with contempt. "All I had to do was wear the right clothes, say the right things, pretend to love the opera. Men like you are so predictable. You think sophistication equals character." The FBI had recovered most of the money, $3.2 million. Victoria was serving 7 years in a federal prison. But the damage to Rhodes went deeper than any bank account. Now, as a billionaire tech CEO whose facial recognition software had revolutionized security systems worldwide, Rhodes Sutherland had one inflexible rule. He would never, ever trust another elegant, polished, refined woman again. Which made what he felt about his maid absolutely terrifying. The penthouse door opened, and he heard her before he saw her, the soft shuffle of worn sneakers on marble, the quiet humming of an old Aretha Franklin song. His chest did that stupid thing it had been doing for weeks now, that tightening that made it hard to breathe. "Mr. Sutherland? I didn't know you were home early." Rhodes turned, and there she was. Elena Vaughn, 35, in her oversized cleaning uniform, her natural curls pulled back in a simple ponytail, not a trace of makeup on her beautiful brown skin. She held a mop in one hand and had cleaning solution tucked under her arm. She was nothing like Victoria. Nothing like the women who threw themselves at him at charity galas, dripping in diamonds and calculated charm. Laney was real. Unpolished. She wore discount store clothes and took the bus. She hummed old soul music while she cleaned. She never asked him for anything. And God help him, he was falling for her. "I finished the quarterly reports early," he said, his voice coming out rougher than intended. "You don't have to clean tonight. I gave you the week off, remember?" "I know, but Ma needs her medication, and the pharmacy won't take payments, so." Laney trailed off, her cheeks flushing. "I'm sorry. You don't need to hear about my problems." There it was. That instinct to help her, to fix everything, to throw money at her troubles and make them disappear. But Rhodes had learned his lesson. Women who needed money were dangerous. Even ones who seemed genuine. Especially ones who seemed genuine. "How much?" The words escaped before he could stop them. "Mr. Sutherland, no. I wasn't asking. How much for your mother's medication?" Laney's dark eyes met his, and he saw something flash in them. Pride, maybe. Or pain. $300. "But I'll pick up extra shifts. I always figure it out." $300. Rhodes had spent more than that on a single bottle of wine last week. He pulled out his wallet. "Please don't," Laney said quietly. "I know you mean well, but I can't. My father always said debt to the wrong people costs more than money." "I'm not the wrong people. You're my boss. That's complicated enough." She shifted the mop to her other hand. "I should go. I'm sorry for bothering you." She was leaving. Actually walking away from money she desperately needed. Rhodes couldn't remember the last time someone had refused him anything. Laney, wait. She paused at the door, her back to him. The last rays of sunset caught the edges of her hair, turning her curls golden at the tips. What if it wasn't charity? What if you worked for it? She turned slowly. Sir. Rhodes's mind raced. He needed an assistant for the charity gala next weekend, the Spring Harbor Children's Foundation event. His actual assistant had quit yesterday, tired of his impossible standards and cold demeanor. The event was important, unavoidable, and he'd rather set himself on fire than attend alone and deal with the parade of sophisticated women his board members insisted on introducing him to. I need someone to help coordinate the gala, he said. It's legitimate work. 20 hours over the next week. I'll pay you $50 an hour. That's $1,000. Laney's eyes widened. Mr. Sutherland, I clean houses. I don't know anything about fancy parties. Good. The last 5 coordinators all thought they did, and they were disasters. He stepped closer, watching her carefully. All I need is someone organized, honest, and willing to follow instructions. Someone who won't try to turn it into a networking opportunity or social climbing exercise. He could see her thinking, calculating. The medication. Her mother. The worn sneakers and second-hand uniform. What exactly would I be doing? Keeping track of RSVPs, coordinating with vendors, making sure the schedule runs on time. Basic logistics. He paused. And accompanying me to the event itself. I need someone there who actually knows what's happening. You want me to go to a gala? Laney looked down at her cleaning uniform. Mr. Sutherland, I don't exactly have the wardrobe for that. I'll handle that. Part of the job. This feels like charity with extra steps. It's not. Rhodes met her eyes. I genuinely need help, and you're the most competent person I know. Everyone else I've hired has been more interested in impressing me than actually doing the work. You're different. She bit her lip, and he realized he was holding his breath waiting for her answer. $50 an hour? Yes. And I'm really helping, not just being given busy work so you can hand me money? You'll earn every penny. I'm not an easy person to work for. Laney was quiet for a long moment. Then she set down the mop and met his gaze straight on. Okay. But I do the actual work. No shortcuts, no easy passes. If I'm taking your money, I'm earning it. Relief flooded through him, warm and unexpected. Deal. When do I start? Tomorrow morning. 9 a.m. Wear something comfortable, you'll be making a lot of calls. Laney nodded, then turned to leave. At the door, she paused again. Mr. Sutherland? Thank you. For making it work instead of charity. That matters to me. After she left, Rhodes stood alone in his penthouse, the lights of Charleston twinkling below, and wondered what the hell he'd just done. He'd spent 5 years building walls, and this woman in her worn sneakers and simple ponytail had just walked straight through them without even trying. His phone buzzed. A text from Drew Callum, his best friend and CFO. Board meeting next week. Victoria's parole hearing is coming up. Thought you should know. Rhodes stared at the message, then looked at the door where Laney had just exited. Victoria had seemed genuine too, once upon a time. She'd been polished and perfect, and she'd destroyed him. Laney was the opposite in every way. But that didn't mean she was safe. In his experience, the people who seemed most genuine were often the best liars. He needed to be careful. Keep his distance. Protect himself. But as he walked to his bedroom that night, he caught himself humming the Aretha Franklin song Laney had been singing earlier, and he knew he was already in trouble. The dangerous kind. The next morning, March 11, 2024, Elena Vaughn stood outside Rhodes Sutherland's penthouse at exactly 8:55 a.m., her heart hammering against her ribs. She smoothed down her best outfit, a simple navy dress from a thrift store, paired with the one good pair of shoes she owned. Nothing like what she used to wear. Nothing like the designer labels and custom tailoring that had once filled her closet. Back when she was someone else entirely. Taking a breath, she knocked. Rhodes opened the door, and she immediately noticed he'd skipped the razor this morning. The stubble made him look less like the cold CEO from magazine covers and more like a real person. His white button-down was rolled to his elbows, and he held a coffee mug that said, "World's okayest boss," that she'd definitely never seen before. "You're early," he said. "I'm on time. You said 9. It's 8:56. Early is on time. On time is late. That's what my father used to say." The memory pinched. 5 years since he died in 2019, and sometimes the grief still ambushed her. Something shifted in Rhodes's expression. "Come in. Coffee, please." His penthouse looked different in morning light. Less imposing, more lived in. She noticed things she'd missed while cleaning, the worn thriller novel on the side table, the plant in the corner that someone clearly talked to because it was thriving, the framed photo of a young boy and an older man fishing. "Your father?" she asked, nodding at the photo. Rhodes glanced over while pouring coffee. "Yeah. Lost him 10 years ago. Heart attack at 57. He was a contractor, built half of Charleston's historic district renovations. He would have been 27 in that photo." Laney did the math automatically. "Good guess. I was 7. He handed her the coffee, and their fingers brushed. That same electric current that had been haunting her for months now, every accidental touch while she cleaned and he worked late. "So," Rhodes said, "all business again. The gala is Saturday, November 16th. 6 days away. We have 247 confirmed guests, dinner for 300, and a silent auction with 52 items. The venue is the historic waterfront pavilion overlooking the Charleston harbor." Laney pulled out the small notebook she'd bought at the dollar store. "What's the timeline?" "Cocktails at 6, dinner at 7:30, auction preview during dinner, live auction at 9, dancing until midnight." "What's the goal? I mean, beyond raising money?" Rhodes looked at her with surprise. "What do you mean?" "Every event has a goal beyond the obvious. Is this about building donor relationships? Attracting new major gifts? Honoring someone? The goal shapes everything else." He set down his coffee slowly. "How do you know that?" "Damn." Laney felt her throat tighten. "I used to volunteer. Before." "Before what?" "Before I needed to work 3 jobs just to keep the lights on." It wasn't a lie. Just not the whole truth. Rhodes studied her for a moment too long, and she forced herself not to fidget. She'd gotten good at this over the past 5 years, being invisible, unremarkable, forgettable. Just another housekeeper in an oversized uniform. Nothing like Elena Vaughn-Castellano, daughter of one of Charleston's most respected boutique hotel owners, educated at Vanderbilt, fluent in 3 languages, once engaged to a senator's son. That woman died the same day her father did in 2019, when she was 30 years old. "The goal," Rhodes finally said, "is honoring children who've aged out of foster care. Giving them resources for college, job training, housing support." Something in Laney's chest cracked open. "That's beautiful. You sound surprised." "Most charity galas she caught herself. "Most charity galas seem more about the donors than the cause. This one isn't. Those kids deserve better than society gave them." The passion in his voice was unexpected. Laney made a note, personal connection to cause. "Use in speeches." "Okay," she said. "Let's talk vendor coordination. Who's confirmed?" They spent the next 4 hours going through every detail. Laney made lists, color-coded schedules, created backup plans for the backup plans. She called caterers, confirmed floral arrangements, verified that the string quartet knew they were playing, not the jazz band that had been originally booked. She was in her element, and she forgot to hide it. "How did you catch that?" Rhodes asked when she discovered that 2 different vendors had been told they could use the same loading dock entrance at the same time. My last 3 assistants missed it completely. Just detail-oriented, I guess. Laney. His voice made her look up. You're not just anything. The way he looked at her, like she was a puzzle he desperately wanted to solve, made her skin warm. I should call the linen company, she said quickly. The tablecloths they described don't match the event aesthetic. What's wrong with them? You want understated elegance for this crowd, right? The emerald green they're sending is too bold. It'll overpower the centerpieces and make the whole room feel like Christmas in November. You need champagne or soft gold. Something that whispers, doesn't shout. Rhodes leaned back in his chair. How do you know what whispers versus shouts? I notice things. That's all. No, it's more than that. You talk about these events like you've been to them. Panic fluttered in Laney's stomach. I watch a lot of movies. Laney. His phone rang. He glanced at it, and his entire face hardened. I need to take this, he said, standing. It's my lawyer. He walked to his bedroom, but even through the closed door, Laney could hear fragments. Parole hearing is set for 2 weeks. Victoria's attorney is claiming. No, I don't want to see her. I don't care if she wants to apologize. Victoria. The name hung in the air like poison. Laney had researched Rhodes after she'd started working for him. It was impossible not to. The tech billionaire who'd revolutionized facial recognition security. The man who'd been publicly humiliated by his elegant, sophisticated fiancée who'd embezzled millions while planning their wedding. The man who now looked at every polished, refined woman like she was a threat. Including, Laney realized with cold clarity, the woman she actually was underneath this disguise of worn clothes and careful invisibility. When Rhodes came back 20 minutes later, his expression was carved from ice. I need to go to the office, he said. Can you handle the vendor calls? Of course. There's a key to the penthouse on the counter. Lock up when you leave. He grabbed his jacket. Good work today. You're better at this than anyone I've hired. Then he was gone, and Laney sat alone in the billionaire's penthouse, surrounded by the life she used to have, pretending to be someone she wasn't. Her phone rang. Ma. Hey, Ma. How's the new job, baby? Her mother's voice sounded tired. The medication helped, but the heart condition was progressing. They both knew it. It's good. Really good. You sound sad when you say that. I'm not sad. Laney Marguerite Vaughn, I raised you. I know every single one of your voices. That's your, I'm lying to protect people voice. Laney closed her eyes. I like him, Ma. And he can never know who I really am. Why not? Because the woman who destroyed him was exactly like me. Elegant. Polished. From a good family. He thinks people like that are all liars and cons. If he knew I was Elena Vaughn-Castellano, that I grew up in the Charleston Country Club, that I went to cotillion and private schools, he'd never trust me again. So you're going to lie to him forever? I'm not lying. I just omit things. Baby, that man is falling for someone who doesn't exist. What happens when he finds out? He won't. Elena is gone. I'm just Laney now. Laney who cleans houses and takes the bus and lives in a studio apartment. That's who he's falling for. Is it? Or is he falling for the woman who caught his vendor mistake and knows about event aesthetics and can't help being smart and capable no matter what clothes she wears? Laney didn't have an answer for that. After she hung up, she sat in Rhodes's penthouse as the afternoon sun moved across the Charleston harbor, and wondered how you could be falling in love with someone while simultaneously lying to them about everything you were. Her phone buzzed. A text from Rhodes. Forgot to say thank you. You're saving this event. And maybe me. R. Laney stared at the message, her heart breaking and soaring at the same time. She was absolutely going to destroy this. The only question was how badly, and whether either of them would survive it. By Saturday, November 16, 2024, Laney had coordinated every detail of the Spring Harbor Children's Foundation Gala with military precision. She'd also successfully avoided thinking about the fact that she'd have to actually attend. That illusion shattered at 2 p.m. when Rhodes showed up at her studio apartment. She opened the door to find him holding 3 garment bags and looking uncomfortable. "You found my address," she said. "It was in your employment file." He shifted the bags. "Can I come in?" Laney's apartment was 400 square feet of carefully maintained dignity. Everything was clean, organized, and obviously second-hand. Her mother was at dialysis, thank God, so at least Rhodes wouldn't see the hospital bed in the corner or the medication organizers that covered the tiny kitchen counter. "It's not much," she said. "It's nice. You've made it a home." He set the garment bags on her futon couch. "I brought options for tonight. My assistant used to handle this, but since I fired her, I had to improvise. I gave the stylist your measurements from your uniform order." "You memorized my measurements?" Rhodes's ears turned slightly red. "I pay attention to details." Laney unzipped the first bag and nearly stopped breathing. The gown was champagne silk, deceptively simple with clean lines and an elegant drape. Exactly what she would have chosen. Exactly what Elena Vaughn-Castellano would have worn. "I can't wear this," she whispered. "Why not?" "Because it would reveal everything." Because the moment she put on that dress and did her hair and applied makeup, she'd look exactly like what she was, Charleston elite pretending to be poor. "It's too expensive. What if I spill something? Then I'll buy you another one." Rhodes stepped closer. "Laney, you've worked yourself to exhaustion this week. You've earned this night. Please just let yourself enjoy it." "Mr. Sutherland." "Rhodes. When we're not working, it's Rhodes." The intimacy of his name in her apartment, surrounded by her real life, felt dangerous. "I need to tell you something," she started. "If you're about to quit, I'm offering you a full-time position. Assistant Director of Operations. $60,000 a year, full benefits. You'd be helping coordinate all my company's charitable initiatives." Laney's knees went weak. $60,000. Her mother's medication. Real health insurance. Everything they desperately needed. All built on a lie. "Rhodes, You don't have to answer now. Just think about it." He moved toward the door. "Car will pick you up at 5:30. I'll see you at the gala." After he left, Laney sat on her futon and called her mother. "He offered me a job. A real job. $60,000 a year. That's wonderful, baby." "Ma, it's based on him not knowing who I am. The second he finds out I'm the daughter of the man who used to employ his father for renovation contracts, that I grew up in the same social circles as his ex-fiancée, that I'm exactly the type of woman he's sworn to never trust again, everything falls apart. So tell him. Tonight. Before it goes further. And lose the job? Lose the insurance that could keep you alive." The silence on the other end was answer enough. At 5:30 p.m., Laney stepped into the car Rhodes had sent, wearing the champagne silk gown, her natural curls styled into an elegant updo, makeup applied with the skill of someone who'd once had her own makeup artist on speed dial. She looked in the compact mirror and saw Elena staring back. The girl she'd buried 5 years ago, when her father's sudden death revealed that the family business was drowning in debt, that the senator's son she'd been engaged to was only interested in her family's connections, that every friend she had disappeared the moment the money did. The waterfront pavilion was lit up like a jewel box. Laney walked in through the vendor entrance, checking last-minute details, watching the elegant crowd arrive in designer gowns and perfect tuxedos. This used to be her world. These people used to be her peers. "Excuse me, do I know you?" Laney turned to find Katerina Westbrook, who'd been in her debutante class. Katerina's eyes narrowed. "You look so familiar." "I don't think so," Laney said quickly. "I'm just the event coordinator. Let me know if you need anything." She escaped to the kitchen, her heart racing. "Laney." Rhodes stood in the doorway wearing a tuxedo that was probably illegal in several states. He looked at her, really looked, and something flickered across his face. "You look." He trailed off. "Different," she finished. "I know. The dress is beautiful, thank you." "It's not the dress." He stepped closer. "You look like yourself." "Finally." "What do you mean?" "Like you stopped hiding." His hand reached up, almost touching her face, then dropped. "Who are you really, Laney Vaughn?" Before she could answer, the event coordinator's walkie-talkie crackled. "Major problem. The auctioneer just cancelled. Food poisoning. We need a replacement immediately." Rhodes swore under his breath. The auction is the centerpiece of the whole evening. Without an auctioneer. "I'll do it," Laney heard herself say. "What?" "I'll run the auction. I know all the items, I've been coordinating with donors all week, and I." She took a breath. "I know how to work a crowd." Rhodes studied her. "Why do I feel like there's a story there?" "Lots of stories. Maybe someday, I'll tell you." She grabbed the auction catalog. "But right now, we have 247 guests waiting for a show. Let's give them one." 20 minutes later, Laney stood at the podium overlooking Charleston Harbor, looking out at a sea of wealthy faces, and felt 5 years fall away. "Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Laney Vaughn, and I'll be your auctioneer tonight." She smiled, and it was Elena's smile. Confident, charming, born to command a room. "Before we begin, I want to tell you why we're here. This foundation supports teenagers aging out of foster care. Kids who turn 18 and suddenly have no home, no family, no safety net. Society tells them they're adults now, figure it out. But we know better." The room had gone quiet. Every single dollar raised tonight goes directly to programs that provide housing, education, job training, and mentorship. So when you bid tonight, you're not buying a vacation package or a piece of art. You're buying a chance. A future. A life that matters. She saw Rhodes at the back of the room, staring at her like he'd never seen her before. "Now, let's start the bidding. First item, a week at a private villa in Tuscany, donated by the Marchetti family. Opening bid is $5,000. Who wants to change a life tonight?" The auction was electric. Laney worked the crowd like she was born to it, because she had been. She knew exactly when to push, when to joke, when to pull heartstrings. She knew how to make wealthy people feel good about spending money. By the time she brought down the gavel on the final item, a vintage Rolex that went for $45,000, they'd raised $890,000. The room erupted in applause. Laney stepped off the stage, adrenaline crashing, and walked straight into Rhodes. "Where did that come from?" he asked. "I told you. I used to volunteer." "No. That wasn't volunteering. That was professional. Elite. You commanded that room like you owned it." His eyes searched hers. "Who are you?" "Rhodes. Sir." A waiter approached. "There's a Victoria Ashford at the entrance demanding to see you. Security is holding her, but she says it's urgent." Rhodes's face went white, then hard as stone. "Tell security she's not welcome. She needs to leave immediately. She said to tell you she knows something about your new assistant. Something you need to hear." The world stopped spinning. Rhodes looked at Laney, and she saw the exact moment the walls went back up. The coldness returned. The suspicion. "I'll handle Victoria," he said. "Wait here." But Laney followed him, because if her life was about to implode, she wanted to watch it happen. Victoria Ashford stood at the entrance in a severe black dress, 5 years older but still polished, still refined, still elegant. She looked exactly like what she was, everything Rhodes hated. She also looked exactly like Laney did in the champagne silk gown. "Hello, Rhodes," Victoria said. Then her eyes slid to Laney, and she smiled. "And hello, Elena. It's been a long time since Cotillion, hasn't it? How's your mother?" I heard the Vaughn-Castellano fortune disappeared after your father died. Such a tragedy. Is that why you're slumming as a maid now? Rhodes turned to Laney with betrayal written across every feature. Elena, he said quietly. Your real name is Elena Vaughn-Castellano? And Laney watched 5 years of carefully constructed lies crumble into dust. The silence stretched like broken glass. Around them, the gala continued. Laughter, music, the clink of champagne glasses. But inside the entrance vestibule, everything had shattered. Rhodes, Laney started, her voice barely audible. Is it true? His voice was carved from ice. Is your real name Elena Vaughn-Castellano? Victoria laughed, a sound like wind chimes made of razors. Of course it is. We were presented at the same cotillion in 2009. Elena's father owned Castellano boutique hotels, 7 properties across the southeast. Very exclusive, very expensive. Elena herself was quite the Charleston socialite. Engaged to Senator Morrison's son, wasn't it? What was his name? Thomas, Laney whispered, and it felt like confessing to murder. Rhodes stepped back like she'd struck him. You've been lying to me. This entire time. I didn't lie. You just what? Pretended to be poor? Pretended to need help? Pretended to be someone real instead of another polished con artist. His laugh was bitter. God, I'm an idiot. The way you knew about events, about aesthetics, about working a room. You weren't volunteering. You were part of that world. I was part of that world. Past tense. Rhodes, everything changed when. When what? When you saw an opportunity. When you realized a billionaire with trust issues was the perfect mark if you played the humble maid. He ran his hand through his hair. The worn sneakers, the bus passes, the struggling mother story. Was any of it even real? My mother is dying. Laney's voice cracked. She has congestive heart failure, and I work 3 jobs to pay for her medication because we have nothing left. That's real. The studio apartment is real. The financial struggle is real. But you're not real. Laney Vaughn isn't even your actual name. It's my middle name and my mother's maiden name. I changed it after my father died because being Elena Vaughn-Castellano meant being swallowed by debt collectors and fake friends, and a fiancé who abandoned me the second the money was gone. Tears streamed down her face, ruining the makeup that made her look like Elena again. I became Laney because Elena died in 2019, when I was 30 years old and I lost everything that mattered. Except your ability to lie convincingly. Victoria's smile widened. Rhodes, darling, you really do have a type. Sophisticated women pretending to be something else. I pretended to love you while stealing your money. Elena here pretends to be poor while angling for a piece of your fortune. We're not so different. Shut up, Rhodes and Laney said simultaneously. Rhodes's eyes found Laney's. You're nothing like her. She's right about that. You're actually good at this. I believed you completely. Every word, every gesture, every moment of seeming genuine. You're a much better actress than Victoria ever was. I wasn't acting about my feelings, Laney said desperately. Everything I felt for you was real. The only thing I hid was my past. Your past is who you are. Your name, your family, your entire background. That's not a small detail, Laney. Or should I call you Elena? I'm not Elena anymore. Then who are you? Rhodes's voice broke slightly. Because I thought I knew. I thought you were this genuine, humble, real person. But you're just another woman from Charleston elite society, playing whatever role gets her what she wants. That's not fair. Fair. Rhodes laughed without humor. You want to talk about fair? I told you about Victoria. I told you exactly why I can't trust elegant, sophisticated women. And you sat there in your second-hand clothes, nodding sympathetically, the whole time knowing you were exactly what I was describing. You knew my damage, and you weaponized it. I never wanted to hurt you. Then you should have told me the truth. Day 1, week 1, any time before I started falling for you. He turned away. God, I'm such a fool. Twice. The exact same con, just with better packaging. Mr. Sutherland, Victoria interjected, clearly enjoying herself. If it helps, I really did come to warn you. I saw Elena's picture in the background of a news article about your company's charity work. I thought you deserved to know who you were trusting. How noble of you, Rhodes said coldly. Considering you're the reason I can't trust anyone in the first place. I served my time. I'm trying to make amends. By destroying someone else? Get out. Security. 2 guards appeared and escorted Victoria toward the exit. She looked back once, satisfaction gleaming in her eyes, before disappearing into the Charleston night. Rhodes and Laney stood alone in the vestibule. The party continued without them. Through the windows, Laney could see the harbor lights reflecting on the water. The same view she'd grown up with, the same city that had once been her entire world. Rhodes, please listen. I offered you a job today, he said quietly. $60,000 a year. Benefits. I was going to help with your mother's medical bills. Was that the plan? Get hired, earn my trust, then what? Wait for the perfect moment to ask for more? A loan that becomes a gift. Access to my accounts. No. God, no. Rhodes, I was going to tell you the truth. Today, before the gala. But then you offered me the job, and my mother needs that insurance, and her voice broke. I made the wrong choice. I know that. But I never wanted anything from you except you. I don't believe you. The words landed like physical blows. How can I prove it? Laney asked. Tell me how to prove I'm not Victoria. You can't. That's the problem. Victoria seemed genuine too. She cried at the right moments, said the right things, played the role perfectly. You're just better at it than she was. He finally looked at her, and the pain in his eyes was devastating. The worst part is, I think I could have forgiven the lie if you'd told me yourself. If you'd trusted me with the truth. But you were going to let me fall completely, weren't you? You were going to let me love you. God, I was already halfway there, and you were never going to tell me. I was scared. Of what? Of this. Of watching you look at me exactly the way you're looking at me right now. Like I'm a liar. A con artist. Like everything between us was fake. Tears blurred her vision. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I made terrible choices. But Rhodes, I need you to understand something. The woman you've been falling for? That's who I really am. The name might have been different, but everything else. My personality, my values, my feelings for you. All of it was real. How can I know that? How can I trust anything about you now? You can't, Laney admitted. That's the problem with lies. They poison everything, even the truth. Rhodes pulled out his phone. I'm calling you a car. You should go home. What about the job? I think we both know that's not happening. Rhodes. Please go, Laney. Or Elena. Whoever you are. He turned away. I need to get back to the gala. Those kids still need their money, and I still have a job to do. Unlike some people, I don't run away from my responsibilities. The jab hit its mark. Laney had run, from her past, from her name, from everything Elena had been. But she'd been running toward survival, not away from responsibility. She wanted to fight, to argue, to make him understand. But looking at his closed-off expression, she realized there was nothing she could say right now that would penetrate those walls. For what it's worth, she said softly, I'm sorry. You deserved better. You deserved honesty. And I failed you. She walked toward the entrance, then stopped. One more thing. The woman you thought I was, Laney who cleans houses and takes the bus and hums Aretha Franklin, she wasn't fake. She's who Elena became after everything was stripped away. She's who I am when all the polish and pretense is gone. And she fell in love with you. Really, truly fell in love with you. Rhodes didn't respond, didn't turn around. Laney watched his shoulders for any sign of softening, but he remained rigid. The car arrived. She climbed in and watched the pavilion disappear behind her. When Laney got home at 9:47 p.m. on August 16, 2024, exactly 5 months and 6 days after meeting Rhodes on March 10, her mother was waiting up. How was the gala? Victoria showed up. Told Rhodes everything. It's over. Her mother's face crumpled with sympathy. Oh, baby. I ruined it, Ma. I had something real, something beautiful, and I destroyed it because I was too scared to be honest. Laney sank onto the futon, still wearing the champagne silk gown. He thinks I'm a con artist. He thinks I played him like Victoria did. Did you tell him why you changed your name? What really happened with your father? He didn't want to hear it. He just wanted me gone. Give him time. He's hurt and angry right now. He's right to be angry. I lied to him for 5 months. I let him fall for someone while hiding huge parts of who I am. What kind of person does that? A scared one. A desperate one. A human one. Her mother sat beside her. You made a mistake, Laney. A big one. But your feelings were real, and you need to find a way to show him that. How? He won't take my calls, won't see me. Then you show him through actions, not words. You prove you're not Victoria by being consistent, honest, and genuine. Even if he never forgives you, you do it anyway. Because that's what real love is. It's not about what you get in return. Laney looked at her mother, 64 years old, fighting heart failure, still finding wisdom in the wreckage. When did you get so smart? Had a lot of time to think during dialysis treatments. They sat together as the night deepened over Charleston, and Laney made a decision. Rhodes might never forgive her, might never trust her again. But she could still show him the truth. She could still prove that Laney Vaughn, or Elena Vaughn-Castellano, or whoever she was, had genuinely loved him. Even if it didn't change anything. Over the next few weeks, Rhodes Sutherland tried to go back to his life before Laney. He hired a new assistant. Fired her after 3 days. He hired another. She lasted a week before he admitted she was incompetent. He tried to focus on work. The facial recognition software had a major update launching, but he couldn't concentrate. He'd be in meetings and suddenly remember the way Laney hummed while she worked, the careful way she'd organized his files, the moment she'd commanded that auction room like she was born to it. Because she had been born to it. Elena Vaughn-Castellano. Daughter of Charleston hotel royalty. Former debutante. Everything he'd sworn to never trust again. You're being an idiot, Drew told him 3 weeks after the gala, in early September 2024. They sat in Rhodes's office overlooking Charleston Harbor. You're punishing her for having a past. I'm punishing her for lying about it. Did she actually lie, or did she just not volunteer information? That's the same thing. Is it? Because I don't remember you asking her about her background. You assumed she'd always been poor. That's on you, not her. Rhodes glared at his best friend. Whose side are you on? The side of you not being miserable. Which you clearly are. Drew leaned forward. Look, what Victoria did was calculated theft. She targeted you specifically, researched your company, and systematically stole millions while pretending to love you. What Laney did was survive. She lost everything. I researched the Vaughn-Castellano situation after the gala. Her father died suddenly of a heart attack in 2019. The hotels were mortgaged to the hilt. Creditors seized everything. Her fiancé dumped her publicly. She went from penthouse to poverty in 6 months. She wasn't trying to con you. She was trying to hide from humiliation. She should have told me. Why? So you could immediately distrust her? Rhodes, be honest. If she'd introduced herself as Elena Vaughn-Castellano on day one, would you have hired her? Rhodes wanted to say yes. He couldn't. Exactly, Drew continued. She knew your damage. She knew you'd automatically assume the worst. So she showed you who she really was without the labels and let you judge her on her actual character. That's not deception, that's self-preservation. She let me fall for her under false pretenses. No, she let you fall for her under her real identity. The past doesn't define her, her actions do. And her actions have been consistently honest, hard-working, and genuine. Rhodes stood, walking to the windows. The harbor stretched out below, boats cutting through dark water. I don't know how to trust her now. Then don't. Not immediately. But maybe give her a chance to earn it back. Drew stood to leave. By the way, did you know she's been coordinating all your charity events? From home, unpaid, since you fired her. Someone has to keep your foundation running, and apparently she still cares enough to do it even when you won't speak to her. After Drew left, Rhodes pulled up his foundation's calendar. Every event for the next 6 months was perfectly organized. Detailed notes, vendor contacts, backup plans. The work was flawless, professional, and clearly done by someone who knew exactly what she was doing. At the bottom of each event file, a small note. Event coordinated by LV. No payment necessary. Just supporting a cause that matters. LV Laney Vaughn. Or Elena Vaughn-Castellano. Or maybe, Rhodes thought, someone who was both and neither. Someone who'd been forced to rebuild herself from nothing and chose to do it with integrity. His phone buzzed. An email from an unknown address. Subject, you should know the whole story. Mr. Sutherland. My name is Margaret Vaughn. I'm Laney's mother. She doesn't know I'm writing this, and she'd probably be furious if she did. But I'm a dying woman, and I don't have time for pride anymore. My daughter changed her name in 2020, after her father died and her world fell apart. She became Laney because being Elena meant being the girl who lost everything. Being Elena meant facing pity and judgment and fake sympathy from people who'd pretended to be friends. She wasn't hiding from you. She was hiding from a version of herself that no longer existed. When she met you, she'd been working 3 jobs for 3 years just to keep us afloat. She was exhausted, lonely, and convinced she'd never find real love because any man interested in Elena would want the money and status she no longer had. Then you saw her as Laney, just Laney, the maid with the worn sneakers and second-hand clothes, and you liked her anyway. You saw her character instead of her pedigree. For the first time in 5 years, someone valued her for who she actually was, not what she represented. She should have told you sooner. I told her that repeatedly. But she was terrified of losing the first genuine connection she'd had since her father died. I'm not asking you to forgive her. I'm just asking you to understand that her fear came from trauma, not malice. She's not Victoria Ashford. She's a woman who lost everything and is still choosing kindness, still doing your unpaid charity work, still trying to help kids who aged out of foster care because she knows what it's like to be abandoned by the world you thought you could count on. If you can't forgive her, I understand. But please don't believe she's something she's not. My daughter is genuine, hard-working, and full of love. The only thing she's guilty of is being too scared to show you her scars. Sincerely, Margaret Vaughn. Rhodes read the email 3 times. Then he did something he hadn't done in weeks. He picked up his phone and called Laney. It rang 4 times before she answered. Hello. Her voice was cautious, fragile. It's Rhodes. Silence. I'm sorry, they both said simultaneously. Then, despite everything, they both laughed. Small, broken sounds, but real. Can we talk? Rhodes asked. Really talk? Yes. God, yes. Harbor Park. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Will you meet me? I'll be there. After they hung up, Rhodes sat in his office as night fell over Charleston, and wondered if broken things could ever be made whole again. Or if the cracks just became part of the pattern. November 9th, 2024. The morning was cold, the kind of Charleston autumn chill that came off the water and settled into your bones. Laney arrived at Harbor Park at 8:45 a.m., 15 minutes early because some habits from her Elena life refused to die. She wore jeans and a sweater, nothing designer, nothing expensive, just her. She debated whether to dress as Laney or Elena and realized that was the whole problem. She needed to be both. Rhodes showed up at exactly 9 a.m. carrying 2 coffee cups. "I remembered you take it with cream, no sugar," he said, handing her one. "Thank you." They walked in silence along the waterfront path. Joggers passed. A man threw a tennis ball for his golden retriever. Life continued, indifferent to their breaking and potential repair. "I read your mother's email," Rhodes finally said. "She sent you an email? God, I'm so sorry, I didn't know." "Don't apologize. It helped." He stopped walking, turning to face her. "Laney, and I'm calling you Laney because that's who you became, and that matters. I need to understand something. Why couldn't you tell me? Even after we got close, even when you knew I was falling for you. What held you back?" Laney took a breath. "Truth time. All of it. In 2019, when I was 30 years old, my father had a heart attack at work. He was 59. By the time I got to the hospital, he was gone." Her voice shook, but she pushed through. "At the funeral, my fiancé Thomas pulled me aside and said he couldn't marry me anymore. Not because my father died, because it turned out my father had been hiding massive debt. The hotels were failing. Everything was about to be seized." Rhodes's expression softened slightly. "Thomas said, and I quote, 'I'm going into politics. I can't have a wife with bankruptcy in her background. It's nothing personal, Elena. It's just business.'" She laughed bitterly. "He proposed to me in front of 200 people at the country club. He dumped me in a hospital parking lot while my father's body was still warm." Jesus, Laney. That was just the beginning. My supposed friends stopped calling. The country club revoked my membership, unpaid dues. My sorority sisters from Vanderbilt suddenly had no time for lunch dates. In 6 months, I went from Elena Vaughn-Castellano, Charleston socialite, to broke and utterly alone except for my mother. She sat on a bench overlooking the harbor. Rhodes sat beside her, close but not touching. I got my first housekeeping job in 2021, when I was 32. The woman I worked for recognized me. She'd been at my debutante ball in 2009. She made a point of telling everyone at her bridge club that poor Elena Vaughn-Castellano was scrubbing her toilets. Within a week, half of Charleston's elite knew I was cleaning houses. That's cruel. That's reality for people like me. We're only valuable when we're winning. The second you fall, everyone watches to see how far you'll drop. Laney met his eyes. So I legally changed my name to Laney Marguerite Vaughn, my middle name and my mother's maiden name. I moved to a different neighborhood. I stopped going places where Elena used to go. I became someone new because Elena Vaughn-Castellano was a failure, and I couldn't carry that name anymore. You weren't a failure. Your father's business failed. That's not the same thing. Try telling Charleston society that. She sipped her coffee. Then I met you. And you were kind to me. You saw me as competent and capable. You liked me, not despite being a maid, but just, period. You didn't care about my background because you thought I didn't have one worth mentioning. And you knew I'd been burned by someone exactly like Elena. Yes. And I knew if I told you the truth, that I was from the same world as Victoria, the same social circles, the same elite background, you'd never trust me. You'd assume I was another con artist. So I stayed Laney. Tears tracked down her cheeks. I told myself I wasn't lying. I was just being my authentic self without the baggage of my past. But really, I was protecting myself from rejection. And in the process, I hurt you. I'm so sorry, Rhodes. They sat in silence for a long moment. A sailboat cut across the harbor, its white sail bright against gray water. I've been doing a lot of thinking these past weeks, Rhodes said finally. About Victoria, about trust, about why her betrayal destroyed me so completely. Because she stole from you. That was part of it. But the real wound was that she made me feel stupid. Like I was an easy mark. Like my judgment was so flawed, I couldn't see evil when it was sleeping beside me. He turned to face her. When I found out about your past, that same feeling came back. Like I'd been fooled again. Like I was too stupid to see through another performance. It wasn't a performance. I know that now. Drew pointed out that you and Victoria are nothing alike. Victoria targeted me strategically. She researched my company, my wealth, my vulnerabilities. She created a persona designed to extract maximum money. You were just trying to survive. That doesn't excuse the lying. No, but it explains it. And explanation matters. Rhodes reached over, hesitant, and took her hand. Laney, I can't pretend the lie doesn't hurt. It does. But I also can't pretend I don't understand why you did it. And I can't pretend I stopped loving you just because your name used to be different. Laney's breath caught. You love me. I've been falling for you since you refused that $300 for your mother's medication. Since you organized my charity gala like your life depended on it. Since you commanded that auction room and raised almost $1 million for kids no one else cares about. His thumb traced circles on her hand. I love Laney Vaughn. And I think maybe I could love Elena Vaughn-Castellano too, if you'd let me meet her properly. What if she's not as good as Laney? What if she's just different parts of the same person? Rhodes squeezed her hand. You don't have to be one or the other. You're allowed to be both. The woman who survived impossible loss and the woman who grew up in country clubs. The maid with worn sneakers and the socialite who can work a room. All of it is you. I don't know how to be both. Maybe we figure it out together. Laney looked at him. This man who'd been so hurt, so damaged, who had every right to walk away but was choosing to stay. Choosing to try. I'll need time to trust you again, he continued. And you'll need to be completely honest with me, even when it's uncomfortable. No more omissions, no more hiding. Deal. Deal. And Rhodes. I'll need time too. To believe you won't leave when things get complicated, or when you discover something else about my past you don't like. Fair. He smiled, small but real. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Two broken people trying to build something whole. Maybe broken people make the best builders. We know where the weak spots are. They sat together as morning turned to midday, talking about everything. Her debutante ball, his father's death, her father's heart attack, his betrayal by Victoria, her abandonment by Thomas. They excavated old wounds and held them up to the light, examining scars and seeing beauty in survival. What happens now? Laney asked as the sun reached its peak. Now I'd like to take you to dinner. A real date, not a work event. Somewhere nice where we can both dress up and you can be whoever you want to be. Laney, Elena, or someone in between. I'd like that. And then, if you're still interested, I'd like you to take that job I offered. Assistant Director of Operations. But this time with full knowledge of who you are and what you're capable of. No more hiding, no more pretending. You still want to hire me? Laney, you've been running my foundation for free for 3 months. You're overqualified if anything. He stood, pulling her up with him. Plus, I've tried to replace you. I've hired 4 people. They all sucked. Apparently, I've gotten spoiled by excellence. Laney laughed, and it felt like breathing after holding her breath underwater. There's one more thing, Rhodes said. About my mother. She wants to meet you. She knows about me? Everything. The real story, not Victoria's twisted version. She said, and I quote, "That girl worked 3 jobs to save her dying mother while maintaining her dignity and integrity? Bring her to Sunday dinner, or I'm disowning you." Your mother sounds terrifying. She absolutely is. You'll love her. They walked back along the waterfront path, hands linked, two broken people learning how to be whole together. It wasn't fixed yet. Trust would take time, honesty would take work, and love would take both of them choosing it every single day. But for the first time in 5 years, Laney believed it was possible. And for the first time since Victoria, Rhodes believed it too. November 10, 2024. Sunday dinner at the Sutherland family home was apparently a sacred institution. Laney stood outside the historic Charleston single house where Rhodes had grown up, her heart hammering. She dressed carefully. Not too Elena, not too Laney. Just herself. A simple green dress, her natural curls loose, minimal jewelry. Ready? Rhodes asked from beside her. Absolutely not. Good. She likes people who are honest about being terrified. He squeezed her hand. Besides, you commanded an auction room of Charleston's wealthiest. You can handle one Irish Catholic mother. Those are completely different skill sets. The door swung open before they could knock. You must be Laney. The woman who appeared was barely 5 feet tall with white hair, sharp green eyes, and an expression that suggested she could see directly into your soul. I'm Catherine Sutherland, and I've been waiting 37 years for my son to bring home someone worth meeting. Ma, you're terrifying her. Good. If she can't handle me, she can't handle you. Catherine stepped aside. Come in, both of you. Dinner's almost ready, and I want to hear everything. The house smelled like roast chicken, rosemary, and home. Photos covered every available surface. Rhodes as a child, Rhodes with his father, Rhodes graduating college. A life documented in frames. Your home is beautiful, Laney said. It's small, but it's paid for. Rhodes wanted to buy me something bigger, but I told him this house has my husband's memories in every board. I'm not leaving until they carry me out. Catherine gestured to the dining room. Sit. Rhodes, open the wine. Laney, come help me in the kitchen. It was not a request. In the kitchen, Catherine handed Laney a bowl of green beans to trim. They worked in silence for a moment before the older woman spoke. My son told me what happened. All of it. Mrs. Sutherland. Catherine. We don't stand on ceremony in this house. She chopped carrots with practiced efficiency. What you did, hiding your background, wasn't right. But I understand why you did it. You do. Child, I grew up poor. Really poor. When I met Rhodes's father, I was a checkout girl at the Piggly Wiggly, and he was a contractor starting his business. His family had money, respectability. They made it very clear I wasn't good enough. Catherine's knife moved faster. So when we got engaged, I let them think I came from a better family than I did. I wore borrowed clothes to family dinners. I pretended I knew which fork to use. I lied about my background because I was terrified they'd take him away from me. Laney stopped trimming beans. What happened? His father found out. There was a huge fight. The family threatened to disown him if he married me. Catherine smiled. He married me anyway. Told them love mattered more than lineage. And you know what? After 42 years together, after raising a son and building a life, I learned something important. The person you are today matters more than the person you used to be. That's what Rhodes said. Because I raised him right. Catherine turned to face her. But here's what I need to know. Are you done hiding? Because my son can't heal if you're still wearing masks. I'm done hiding. I promised him complete honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. Good. Because uncomfortable truth is better than comfortable lies. Every time. Catherine pulled the roast from the oven. Now, one more question. Do you love him, or do you love what he can provide? Laney met the older woman's eyes directly. I fell in love with him when I thought I'd never have anything beyond my next paycheck. When I was cleaning his floors and he looked at me like I mattered. Before I knew he could help my mother, before the job offer, before any of it. I loved him when loving him gained me nothing but the ache of lying about who I was. Catherine studied her for a long moment. Then her face softened into a genuine smile. That's the right answer. Now let's eat before everything gets cold. Dinner was loud, warm, and full of stories. Catherine told embarrassing tales of Rhodes's childhood. Rhodes countered with stories of his mother's legendary stubbornness. Laney laughed until her sides hurt and felt like she'd come home to a family she didn't know she'd been missing. So Laney, Catherine said over dessert, homemade apple pie. Rhodes mentioned you're from the Vaughn-Castellano family. The table went quiet. Yes, ma'am. I stayed at your father's hotel once. The one in Savannah. Beautiful property. Your father personally came to check on every guest. That's rare in this world. People who remember that hospitality is about humans, not transactions. Tears pricked Laney's eyes. That sounds exactly like him. What happened to the hotels wasn't his fault. The 2008 recession hit boutique properties hard. A lot of good people lost businesses they'd built for generations. Catherine reached across the table, taking Laney's hand. Your father was a good man. Don't let his business failure define either of you. Thank you, Laney whispered. I needed to hear that. After dinner, Rhodes walked Laney through his childhood neighborhood. The streets were quiet, lined with historic homes and ancient oak trees. Your mother is incredible, Laney said. She likes you. I can tell because she didn't bring out the photo albums. That's her ultimate weapon, pictures of me naked on a bearskin rug. Please tell me you're joking. I wish I was. The 70s were a weird time. They walked in comfortable silence, hands linked, breath misting in the cold air. I started therapy, Rhodes said suddenly. After the gala. I realized I've been letting Victoria's betrayal control my entire life for 5 years. Every relationship, every interaction with women, every decision filtered through that one trauma. That's not fair to me, and it's definitely not fair to you. I'm proud of you. I'm working on understanding that not everyone who seems sophisticated is a threat. That polish doesn't equal deception. That someone can be both elegant and genuine. He stopped walking, turning to face her. Basically, I'm working on deserving you. Rhodes, you already. Let me finish. He cupped her face gently. You survived something that would have destroyed most people. You lost everything, your father, your fortune, your fiancée, your social circle. And instead of becoming bitter or cruel, you became stronger. You worked 3 jobs. You took care of your dying mother. You maintained your integrity even when it would have been easier to compromise it. You're extraordinary, Laney. Or Elena. Or whoever you decide to be. I think I want to be both, Laney said softly. Elena Laney Vaughn-Castellano. All the parts of me at once. That's a lot of names. I'm a complicated person. Good. I'm done with simple. Rhodes leaned in, his forehead touching hers. I love you. All your names, all your histories, all your complicated beautiful broken pieces. I love you too. Your damage, your walls, your ridiculous overprotectiveness, everything. I'm not overprotective. You hired 4 different people to replace me just to prove no one could do my job as well. That's called quality control. That's called being in love and not admitting it. Rhodes smiled. Maybe both. He kissed her then, soft and slow and full of promise. It wasn't their first kiss, that had happened in his penthouse kitchen 3 months ago, right before everything exploded. But this kiss was different. This kiss was honest. No walls, no masks, no hidden identities. Just 2 people who'd survived their own private disasters learning to trust again. When they pulled apart, Laney was crying. Happy tears, she clarified quickly. I didn't think I'd get this. A second chance. Someone who knows all of me and stays anyway. I'm not going anywhere, Rhodes promised. Even when you're difficult. Especially when I'm difficult. Especially then. They walked back to Catherine's house, where lights glowed warm in the windows. Rhodes's mother was watching from the porch, and when she saw them holding hands, smiling, she raised her wine glass in salute before disappearing inside. "She's already planning the wedding," Rhodes said. "We've been back together for one day. She's an optimist. And terrifying, efficient." He pulled Laney close. "But maybe she's not wrong. Maybe someday." "Someday," Laney agreed. "When we're both ready. When the broken pieces have healed enough. What if they never heal completely? Then we love each other anyway. Cracks and all." 3 months later, on a cold February morning in 2025, Rhodes Sutherland stood in a small office at Charleston City Hall and married Elena Vaughn-Castellano. Not in a grand ceremony with society guests and designer gowns. Not in a Charleston cathedral with her father's ghost haunting every pew. Just them, Catherine, Laney's mother Margaret, and Drew as witness. Margaret was in a wheelchair but radiant. The new insurance from Laney's job had gotten her into a clinical trial. She was stable, hopeful, fighting. Laney wore a simple white dress, not expensive, not designer, just beautiful. Her natural curls were loose, and she carried wildflowers from the market. Rhodes wore the suit he'd worn to their first dinner date. They wrote their own vows. "I promise to see you," Rhodes said, his voice thick with emotion. "All of you. Every name, every history, every version of yourself you've been and will become. I promise to trust you even when it's hard. To choose you even when I'm scared. To love you especially when you're complicated." Laney took a shaky breath. "I promise to be honest. Completely, sometimes uncomfortably honest. To let you see my scars and trust you with my fears. To stop hiding behind masks and let you love the real me, whoever that is on any given day. I promise to choose you over safety, over fear, over everything." "Do you have rings?" the justice of the peace asked. Rhodes pulled out a small box. Inside were 2 simple gold bands. "They were my parents' rings," he said quietly. "Ma insisted." Catherine was crying openly in the front row. They exchanged rings, said, "I do," and sealed it with a kiss that tasted like second chances and new beginnings. Afterward, they had lunch at a small restaurant overlooking the harbor. Margaret toasted them with sparkling cider. "To broken people building something whole," she said. "To love that sees past masks," Catherine added. "To finally getting it right," Drew finished. Rhodes and Laney, or Rhodes and Elena, or maybe just Rhodes and his wife, clinked glasses and smiled at each other across the table. It wasn't the fairy tale Elena had once imagined. It was better. It was real. That evening, they returned to Rhodes's penthouse, now their penthouse. Laney had moved in 2 weeks ago, bringing her thrift store furniture and her mother's photos and all the parts of herself she'd been hiding. "Mrs. Sutherland," Rhodes said, pulling her close as they stood at the windows overlooking the Charleston Battery. "The same view where this had all started 10 months ago." "That's going to take some getting used to," Laney admitted. "We have time." "We do." She leaned into him, watching the sunset paint the harbor gold. "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me. For staying. For loving all my complicated broken pieces. Thank you for letting me. For trusting me with the truth. For being brave enough to stop hiding." They stood together as darkness fell over Charleston, 2 people who'd lost everything, learning that sometimes the greatest love stories come from the worst disasters. Sometimes you have to lose who you were to discover who you're meant to be. Sometimes the woman in worn sneakers and the woman in designer gowns are the same person, just seen from different angles. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you find someone who loves every angle equally. November 10th, 2025. The Spring Harbor Children's Foundation Gala had become the most anticipated charity event in Charleston. Rhodes Sutherland, now 38, stood at the entrance of the historic waterfront pavilion, watching his wife work the room. Elena Vaughn-Castellano Sutherland, she'd kept all the names, declaring herself a walking identity crisis with excellent organizational skills, moved through the crowd with natural grace. She wore a deep emerald gown that she'd actually bought new, her natural curls styled in an elegant updo, diamonds at her throat, a gift from Catherine on their wedding day. She looked every bit the Charleston socialite she'd been born to be. But she also stopped to crouch down and talk to a shy teenager from the foster program, not caring that her expensive dress touched the floor. She hugged a former housekeeper colleague who'd come as a guest. She made sure the catering staff had water and breaks. She was Elena and Laney, all at once, unapologetically. "Your wife is remarkable," Drew said, appearing beside Rhodes with champagne. "Don't I know it? How's Margaret doing?" "Good days and bad days. The clinical trial bought us time. She got to see us married, got to see Laney thriving. That matters." Rhodes smiled. "She's watching from home tonight via video chat." Laney set up a camera so Ma could see everything. "And Victoria?" Rhodes's expression didn't even flicker. "Served her time, moved to California, not my problem anymore. I've got better things to focus on." On stage, Laney tapped the microphone. "Good evening, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Elena Sutherland, though I've had about 4 different names in the past few years, so feel free to pick your favorite." The crowd laughed. "Last year, I stood at this podium pretending to be someone I wasn't. Tonight, I'm standing here as exactly who I am, a woman who lost everything, rebuilt from nothing, and learned that our lowest moments don't define us, how we rise from them does." Rhodes felt his chest tighten with pride. "Tonight's gala has a special meaning for me. See, I know what it's like to age out of a system. Not foster care, but Charleston society. When my father died 5 years ago and the money disappeared, I learned very quickly that conditional love isn't love at all. Friends vanished. My fiancée left. People who'd known me my entire life suddenly couldn't remember my name." The room had gone completely silent. "I became invisible. I cleaned houses for people who'd attended my debutante ball. I took buses past the country club where I'd learned to play tennis. I wore second-hand clothes and pretended I'd always been poor because admitting I'd fallen felt like admitting I'd failed." Laney's eyes found Rhodes in the crowd. "Then I met someone who saw me. Not my past, not my pedigree, not my potential. Just me. A maid with worn sneakers who hummed old soul music and tried too hard to prove she didn't need help. And he taught me that accepting help isn't weakness. That falling down doesn't make you a failure. That you can lose every material thing and still be valuable, still be loved, still matter." Tears streamed down her face now, but her voice remained strong. "The kids were helping tonight. They didn't choose to end up alone. They didn't fail. The systems failed them. And tonight, we're telling them something different. We're saying, you are seen. You are valued. You are worthy of investment and love and second chances." The room erupted in applause. "So let's raise some money. Let's change some lives. And let's remember that everyone in this room is one tragedy away from needing grace. Let's be the kind of people who give it freely." The auction that night raised $1.4 million. Afterward, as guests filtered out into the Charleston night, Rhodes found his wife standing alone on the pavilion balcony, looking out at the harbor. "You were incredible," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "I was terrified. Couldn't tell. I almost threw up twice. Still couldn't tell." He kissed her temple. "You told them the truth. Your whole story. How does it feel? Liberating? Terrifying? Right?" She turned in his arms. "I spent 5 years hiding who I was. Tonight I stood in front of Charleston's elite and told them everything. And you know what? The world didn't end. People didn't judge me. They just listened. Because your story matters. You matter. We matter," she corrected. "I couldn't have done any of this without you. Want to know a secret?" Rhodes pulled her closer. "I couldn't have done any of this without you either. Before you, I was just angry, bitter, closed off. You taught me how to trust again, how to love again, How to see past the polish to the person underneath. We're quite a pair. The best pair. He paused. Speaking of pairs, I have something to tell you. Laney's eyes widened. You're pregnant. What? No. How would that even? Rhodes laughed despite himself. No. But I've been thinking about the future. About what we want our life to look like. And I want to start a foundation. A real one. For people like you. People who've lost everything and need help rebuilding. Not just foster kids, but anyone who's fallen through the cracks. Single parents, people fleeing abuse, anyone society has decided to forget. Laney's breath caught. Rhodes. And I want you to run it. Full time. You'd be founder and executive director. We'd fund it properly, staff it well, do it right. He cupped her face. You turned your pain into purpose tonight. I want to help you do that every day. What would we call it? I was thinking the Castellano Foundation. After your father. The man who built hotels because he believed everyone deserved a beautiful place to stay, even if just for a night. Laney was crying now, really crying. My father would have loved that. I know. Your mother already approved. I asked her last week. You talked to my mother about this before me? She's terrifying. I wanted her blessing first. Rhodes wiped her tears with his thumbs. What do you say? Want to change the world with me? I'm already changing the world with you. This just makes it official. They kissed as fireworks exploded over Charleston Harbor, part of the gala finale, but it felt like the universe celebrating with them. 2 years later, the Castellano Foundation would help 847 people rebuild their lives. 5 years later, it would expand to 3 states. 10 years later, Elena Vaughn-Castellano Sutherland would be invited to speak at the White House about poverty, class, and the myth of the American meritocracy. But that night, standing on the pavilion overlooking the water, they were just 2 people who'd found each other in the wreckage and built something beautiful from broken pieces. Margaret Vaughn would live another 3 years, long enough to see her daughter thrive, long enough to hold her first grandchild, long enough to know that the sacrifices had been worth it. Victoria Ashford would eventually write a letter of genuine apology that Rhodes would actually read, then forgive, then forget about entirely. Some wounds heal. Some just stop hurting. Catherine Sutherland would become the Foundation's most enthusiastic volunteer, treating every person who came through the doors like her own child, proving that love doesn't require bloodlines. And Rhodes and Laney, or Rhodes and Elena, or simply Rhodes and his wife, would build a life that honored every version of themselves they'd ever been. The broken parts and the healed parts. The poor parts and the wealthy parts. The scared parts and the brave parts. Because that's what love does. It doesn't erase your history. It doesn't demand you choose between who you were and who you are. It just says, I see all of you. And I'm staying. As they drove home that night through the quiet Charleston streets, Laney's phone buzzed with a text from Drew. You two are insufferably cute. Also, the Foundation Board approved the Castellano Foundation budget. You start changing lives on Monday. Congratulations. D. Laney showed Rhodes the message. Monday, she said. That's soon. Scared. Terrified. Excited. Ready. She squeezed his hand. All of it at once. Good. The best things in life are terrifying. Like falling in love with your maid? Like falling in love with a woman wearing 4 different identities and making them all work somehow. Rhodes pulled into their driveway. They'd bought a historic Charleston single house last year, with enough room for Margaret and eventually kids. Like trusting someone after you swore you never would again. Like letting someone see every broken piece and believing they'll stay. Like that. They walked inside their home, filled with thrift store furniture and expensive art, Margaret's hospital bed in the guest room and Rhodes's home office upstairs, Laney's father's hotel photos on the walls and Catherine's recipes in the kitchen. A house that was both of them, all of them, everything they'd been and chosen to become. And as they stood in their bedroom later, getting ready for bed, doing the mundane intimate dance of marriage, Laney caught Rhodes's eye in the mirror. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For seeing past the maid uniform. Thank you for being worth seeing." He wrapped his arms around her waist, chin on her shoulder. "Though for the record, you were always worth seeing." The worn sneakers didn't hide that. "Nothing could. Even when I was lying?" "Even then. Because the lie was in the omission, not in who you actually were. You've always been exactly this person. Brilliant, caring, stronger than steel but soft enough to cry. That never changed." Laney turned in his arms. "I love you, Rhodes Sutherland. I love you, Elena Laney Vaughn-Castellano Sutherland, and all your ridiculously long names." They went to bed that night, a billionaire CEO and a former maid, a man who'd been betrayed and a woman who'd lost everything, two broken people who'd discovered that broken doesn't mean unfixable. It just means you can see where the light gets in. Thank you so much for reading this story all the way to the end. If this journey of Rhodes and Laney touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another story. I'd also love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment and tell me if you're in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Europe, Africa, or anywhere else in this beautiful world. Remember, your past doesn't define your future. The worst moments of your life don't get the final word. And sometimes, the greatest love stories come from the most unexpected places, even between a billionaire who trusted no one and a maid who was hiding everything. Love finds a way. Always. Until next time, keep believing in second chances. Keep believing in love. Keep believing that broken things can become beautiful.